Peace be upon you all. Welcome to English Storytime. Can you imagine, dear viewer, that a crime could happen because of a mobile game? And this game is Ludo. In 2022, this shocking story took place in our beloved Iraq, specifically in Bsbab province. A man was having lunch with his family at home, and suddenly they all smelled something burning. With every moment, the smell grew stronger. The man got up from the table and followed the source of the burning smell, eventually reaching the rooftop of the house. There, they were all shocked and terrified by what they saw. What they witnessed was so incomprehensible that they couldn't grasp who did it or why. 3 questions arose, with incredibly shocking answers, and that's exactly what we will reveal in today's episode. Before we begin the episode, there's something important I want to say. This episode is made because I feel it's necessary to share this story. I have nothing in my heart except to speak for justice. This is about a family in deep grief. The voice of this grieving father, his tears as he cries over what happened to him, shook me. He's asking for only one thing: justice. He wants his rights to be restored. That's what pushed me to share today's story, and Allah willing, the voice of this father will be heard. Out of respect for the family's feelings, I have hidden the face of the victim. Let's not delay any further. Let's dive into the details of this story and hear what really happened. The man in this story is Haider, a young man from Karbala, born in 1991. Haider worked for the state, had a good financial situation, and lived a normal life like any other young man. He had his own apartment next to his parents in the same building and a car of his own. In short, Haider had everything that would allow him to marry, and all he needed was to find a wife. Haider's mother started looking for a suitable wife for him. After some searching, she found a girl through her connections, a distant relative named Zahra. Zahra was young, born in 2003, which made her around 19 years old, about 12 years younger than Haider. Zahra came from a respectable and conservative family living in Bsbab province and had a good reputation and high moral standards. However, there was one thing that would be relevant later in the story. Zahra was illiterate. She couldn't read or write. Despite the age gap, Zahra had no issue marrying Haider, and they got engaged and eventually married. They lived in Haider's apartment in the same building as his family. Initially, their married life was calm and normal, just like any newlyweds. But, as is typical, problems began to arise over time between Haider and Zahra. However, what's not normal is how one deals with these problems and what happens afterward. Although their problems were small and ordinary at first, they gradually escalated until one day a huge fight broke out between Haider and Zahra. In a fit of rage, Haider lost control and beat Zahra savagely, even insulting her for being uneducated, as if his own education justified such behavior. After the fight, Zahra called her mother and told her everything that had happened. When Zahra's parents heard about the situation, they immediately took a taxi to her house. When they saw her condition, they took Zahra back home with them. Zahra's mother asked her father to call Haider and demand a divorce. "Enough is enough," she said. "You've hit her brutally, and that's enough. Divorce her and let her return to us with dignity." However, Zahra refused to be divorced. She explained to her parents that such problems happen in every household, and all she wanted was for Haider to change his behavior and never repeat what had happened. After this incident, Haider was able to make amends with Zahra, and things returned to normal, with Zahra moving back in with him. That's where the story could have ended. Days passed, and everything seemed fine until September 1st, 2022. On that day, Haider called his mother and asked her to take Zahra to the hair salon, as Zahra had requested to go for some beauty treatments. Haider's mother agreed and took Zahra to the salon. Meanwhile, Haider was at work and later returned home. Zahra and his mother came back from the salon around 11 a.m. Hyder went to his room to sleep and woke up around 2:30 p.m. After waking up, he went to his family's apartment and asked his sister to prepare lunch for him. They sat down to eat, with Hyder, his sister, and his mother eating together, while his father was supposedly asleep in the other room. Suddenly, Hyder smelled something burning. He asked his sister, "What's that smell?" She responded, "I don't know." At first, Hyder thought they had accidentally left something burning in the oven. He got up and started searching the house to find the source of the burning smell. He searched the whole house, trying to figure out where it was coming from, until he realized the smell was coming from the rooftop. He rushed upstairs, opened the rooftop door, and was met with a horrifying scene. Hyder found his wife, Zahra, burning in flames on the rooftop. The fire had consumed her entire body. Hyder described the scene, saying she was completely charred. Overcome with shock, Hyder ran back inside, screaming to his father that Zahra had set herself on fire. His father and the rest of the family rushed to the rooftop and were confronted with the horrific scene. They found Zahra's charred body, and in their desperate attempts they tried to put out the fire, but it was too late. Zahra had been burned beyond recognition and had passed away. May she rest in peace. In a state of shock and horror, after extinguishing the fire, they immediately reported the incident to the authorities. Iraqi police arrived at the scene as quickly as possible. The police and forensic team arrived at the scene. After they conducted their investigation and examined the crime scene, they began collecting evidence. The primary question that everyone had was, did Zahra set herself on fire, or was this a homicide? During the investigation, Hyder's family was in disbelief, trying to understand how Zahra could have set herself on fire. It was difficult for them to comprehend, as they hadn't noticed any signs of extreme emotional distress or suicidal tendencies from her. The police began interviewing Zahra's family members, starting with Hyder. His version of events was that he was asleep, and when he woke up, he discovered Zahra's body on fire. But the investigation revealed some inconsistencies in his account. The police decided to dig deeper into the couple's personal life, trying to uncover any hidden issues that might have led to this tragedy. The first clue that raised suspicion was the couple's history of arguments and disputes, especially the physical altercation where Hyder had beaten Zahra. Additionally, Zahra's illiteracy and her feeling of inferiority due to Hyder's insults were seen as factors that might have played a role in her emotional state. Upon further questioning, neighbors revealed they had often heard loud arguments between the couple. They confirmed that the fights had been getting more intense over the past few weeks, with Zahra frequently crying or raising her voice. This suggested that the relationship had been deteriorating before the tragic incident. As the investigation continued, the police explored the possibility that Zahra had been physically or emotionally pushed to the brink. Although Hyder insisted that Zahra had committed suicide, the authorities couldn't ignore the possibility of foul play. The timing and circumstances of the fire raised too many unanswered questions. The forensic report indicated that Zahra had suffered significant burns, but there were also signs of struggle on her body, suggesting that she may have been restrained before the fire was set. These findings contradicted the theory that she had committed suicide by dousing herself with gasoline and lighting herself on fire, as the burns were inconsistent with a self-inflicted act. Zahra's family was devastated. They rejected the idea that Zahra had taken her own life, claiming that she was a cheerful and hopeful person who had been looking forward to her future. They were determined to seek justice for their daughter, suspecting that Hyder may have been involved in her death. Hyder was brought in for further questioning by the police. He repeatedly denied any involvement, claiming he had nothing to do with Zahra's death. However, as the investigation progressed, cracks began to appear in his story. The police found inconsistencies in his timeline, and when pressed further, Hyder became increasingly nervous, unable to provide clear answers to some critical questions. At this point, Zahra's family decided to file a lawsuit, accusing Haider of murder. They argued that Haider had been abusive toward Zahra, and that the conflicts in their marriage had led him to take this drastic and horrifying step. Haider's defense team continued to assert that Zahra had committed suicide, but the prosecution argued that the evidence pointed to a different conclusion. Forensic experts testified that the injuries on Zahra's body were more consistent with a struggle than with self-inflicted harm. Moreover, witnesses reported that Zahra had been subjected to repeated emotional abuse, further casting doubt on the suicide claim. In the end, the case became a highly publicized tragedy, with many people in Iraq following the developments closely. Zahra's family, along with the general public, demanded that the authorities ensure a thorough investigation and deliver justice for Zahra. This tragic story of Zahra is a powerful call for awareness about domestic violence, particularly in relationships where one partner is in a position of power, whether through education, finances, or social standing. It's essential for communities and legal systems to work together to prevent such tragedies from happening again. The police questioned Haider and his family, but they couldn't find any solid evidence. It appeared that Zahra had committed suicide by setting herself on fire, and the case was closed as a suicide. However, Zahra's parents were convinced that their daughter didn't take her own life, and that something more sinister had happened. A year later, the police reopened old, unsolved cases, including Zahra's. A clever officer reviewing the case noticed inconsistencies in the statements and evidence and decided to reopen the investigation. Police investigating. The forensic report revealed that the most burned part of Zahra's body was her head. They put Haider under intense pressure during questioning, and eventually he cracked and confessed. Haider admitted that he had killed Zahra. Haider revealed that about a month before the murder, his brother had told him that Zahra had been talking on her phone late at night. Suspicion consumed Haider, and he began monitoring Zahra, though he found no evidence of wrongdoing. But one day, while searching her phone, he discovered that she had downloaded the game Ludo. Despite finding nothing incriminating, his paranoia grew. Blinded by irrational jealousy, Haider killed Zahra by strangling her, then set her body on fire to make it appear like a suicide. The truth, which had been buried for a year, was finally uncovered. And with that, our story comes to an end. Until next time, take care, and may peace be upon you all. What did you think of today's story? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.